Buenos dias, people in Spain, and good afternoon for people in Indonesia. Selamat sore. I'm very happy to welcome you to the first Indonesia-Spain Forum 2021. This forum has been a collaboration between a wish that Indonesia and Spain would create a dialogue between the two countries. Indonesia and Spain Forum is co-organized by the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS Indonesia, in collaboration with Casa Asia Spain, with the generous support of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, as well as Spain. This webinar is a way of strengthening the relationship between the two countries. We will discuss the latest development between Indonesia and Spain bilateral relation, as well as hope that we can serve as an ongoing platform that will be held annually as an interactive dialogue between Indonesian and Spanish citizens, as well as between government to government and people to people level. Today we will have two teams discuss. The first session will discuss celebrating Indonesia and Spain, the overview of diplomatic and people-to-people relation. And the second session will discuss the strengthening of Indonesia-Spain cooperation amid the COVID-19 pandemic from the economic innovation perspective. However, before we proceed, I would call for the head of the two organizations that co-organized this event. Firstly, I would like to give the opportunities for my boss, Dr. Philips J. Vermonte, the Executive Director of the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS Indonesia, to give his welcoming remarks. Dr. Philips, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Fitri. Good afternoon, everyone in Indonesia, and very good morning to you who are in Spain, in Madrid, or other places in Spain. First of all, I'd like to thank His Excellency Ngurah Swajaya, our DG for American and European Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. Also, Her Excellency Ana Salomon, Director General for North America, Eastern Europe, Asia and Pacific, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Spain. And His Excellency Jose Maria Matres Manso, Ambassador of Spain to Indonesia, distinguished panelists and participants. Thank you all for agreeing to be on this panel. I know you have a very busy schedule, but somehow you agree to be with us this afternoon, Jakarta time, and morning time in Spain to discuss and to have your thoughts shared in this Indonesia and Spain Forum 2021. This has been, we've been planning this for a long time, and then the COVID-19 hit us, but apparently my co-organizer, Casa Asia, have been very determining to have this forum, as we also agreed that it is now very important to have this forum for the first time between Indonesia and Spain, involving a think tank like CSIS. And we are very honored that Casa Asia choose us as a partner to have this first forum. And also, for sure, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs have been very generous in time for helping us and then agreeing to have this forum today. As we know, of course, aside from talking about Indonesia-Spain relations from diplomatic perspective and also people-to-people relations, we know that now COVID-19 is the big elephant in the room. So we cannot escape but we have to talk about this together and find a way, especially in the economic realm, that the two countries might do together in order for us to recover very soon, hopefully, economically, because this is, I think, the right time to discuss such thing. And we have a good list of speakers, and then the very knowledgeable speakers that would guide us through the discussion. And then hopefully at the end of the discussion, we will have a clearer picture of what Indonesia and Spain can do together from the perspective of G2G as well as from the perspective of P2P, people-to-people relation. Thank you very much. I hope we have a good discussion. Back to you, Fitri.
Thank you, Dr. Philip Fermonte, Executive Directors from Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS Indonesia. I would like now to call the Director General of Casa Asia, Mr. Javier Parrondo, to give his welcoming remarks. Screen is yours.
Good morning to you all. If you are following us from Spain, and good afternoon for those of you following us from Indonesia. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this first edition of the Indonesia-Spain Forum, organized jointly by CSIS and Casa Asia. The pandemic has prevented us from holding this meeting in person in Yakarta, but still, we hope we will take advantage of new technologies to have a fruitful discussion and in the future be able to organize this meeting in person, bringing Spain and Indonesia closer. I would like to share with you my happiness for the launching of this first forum, already existing with two other Asian countries, the Philippines and South Korea. We set up as one of our strategic objectives in Casa Asia to extend this fora to other countries, and Indonesia was on the top of that list because of its prominent role in Southeast Asia and for its enormous potential in terms of the bilateral relation with Spain. The meeting we are having today is the conclusion of many efforts carried out by both parties, including our respective ministries and embassies, both in Yakarta and Madrid, to weave alliances and create the framework that would enable us to kick off today. It marks at the same time the start of a new relationship with the Center for Strategic and International Studies, our counterparts, that we face with the greatest interest and commitment. We truly believe in the great opportunities that arise from this collaboration and look forward to continuing working with the CSIS in the coming years. I would also like to thank the support of the Spanish Ministry of Foreign Affairs and our embassy in Yakarta. Their involvement has been key to reach an agreement with CSIS and organize this first meeting. Casa Asia, for those of you who are not familiar with this institution, is a public diplomacy organization set up in 2001 with the aim of fostering and facilitating the knowledge on the Asia-Pacific region in Spain and promoting the relationships between our country and those in Asia, particularly among their civil societies and public administration. Throughout these 20 years, there have been numerous activities by Casa Asia in relation to Indonesia. We have been offering, for example, Bahasa language courses and have included gamelan, concerts and a range of Indonesian traditional dances and music in its performing arts festivals. Lectures on social and political topics of Indonesia and other Southeast Asian countries are part of Casa Asia program. The setting up of this forum that we start today with Indonesia is a great step forward. We will have a regular annual gathering to address topics of interest for both parties. The areas of work identified in this forum represent an advancement of the relations between both Spain and Indonesia. And I must say that in the last few years, since I'm as a director of Casa Asia, particularly from the economic field, we have been receiving suggestions to create such a forum, sometimes directly and sometimes through the advisory bodies of Casa Asia. This request is now a reality. We are moving from a phase of scattered actions to a new phase of annual program meetings that I'm sure will contribute to raise the profile and give content to the bilateral relation in multiple fields. Nevertheless, and this is my final point, we do not want this relationship to be reduced to an annual meeting, and for that reason, we will jointly identify, along with CSIS, where we could collaborate between the annual fora. This would enable us to develop specific projects and keep the flame of the forum alive. We are very pleased to have CSIS as a counterpart in Indonesia. We could not have chosen a better partner. I hope you will find this meeting interesting, and I wish you, everyone, a fruitful debate. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sir Javier Parondo, Director General of Casa Asia. Your Excellency, distinguished panelists, speakers, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would now bring this forum to start so that we can directly celebrate and discuss the relationship between Indonesia and Spain. Fittingly, this is the title of session 1 that will embark. The session 1 is on celebrating Indonesia-Spain relation, the overview of diplomatic and people-to-people relation. I will hand the screen to the moderator of session 1, Executive Director of CSIS Indonesia, Dr. Philip Formonte, to introduce the speaker, as well as later on introduce the discussant. Dr. Phillips, are you ready?
Yes, thank you, Fitri.
Thank you.
Thank you again, everyone. Now I switch role that I'm going to chair the first session in which we are going to have an update of the state of affairs in terms of diplomatic relations between Indonesia and Spain, as well as we are hoping that in this session we are also going to discuss about people-to-people relations between Indonesia and Spain. We are very honored to have the two speakers that, of course, will be able to update us, and because they are the ones who are probably even in their dream, they are thinking about this kind of issues. That is how to better form diplomatic relations between Indonesia and Spain, and as well as how to increase people-to-people relations between the two countries. We have His Excellency Ngurah Swajaya. Thank you very much, Pak Ngurah, for joining with us. He is the Director General for American and European Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. And then we are going to have Her Excellency Anna Solomon, Director General for North America, Eastern Europe, Asia and Pacific, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Spain. Now, without further ado, I'll give 15 minutes for each of the for our two Director Generals to share their thoughts on the topic. I'd like to give the first opportunity to Pak Ngurah Swajaya. Pak Ngurah, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, good morning to all. I'm sorry you cannot see me, but I'm here. It is a pleasure for me to open together with my colleague in the Foreign Affairs Ministry of Indonesia this first Spain-Indonesia Tribune. A few months ago, last August, we had an excellent session of political dialogue two director generals, in which we exchange views on bilateral and global issues. Today, we meet again, if only and once again in the cyberspace, to extend this dialogue to a larger participation and audience, open it somehow to civil society in both countries. I think we all agree that people-to-people dialogue and public diplomacy is a sign of times, and I would like to warmly and particularly thank Casa Asia and the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, for organizing it, and extend my thanks to all participants for their involvement and commitment. We often hear that Spain is a newcomer to Asia, but it was 500 years ago when our two countries met for the first time, when a Spanish expedition landed in Tidore. And in a few days, the Spanish Navy school ship Juan Sebastián Elcano, that bears the name of the captain of that expedition, will arrive again in Tidore, and our two countries will celebrate together this 500th anniversary, the first time ever to travel around the world, a travel that opened the world to the first experience of globalization. We consider Asia as a space of stability and prosperity, and Indonesia is an example of both. Sustained growth is taking more and more Indonesians away from poverty. Indonesia hosts a large number of startups and unicorns, which showcase its capacity for innovation and creativity. Indonesia is the third largest democracy in the world. Both countries, Indonesia and Spain, share common values such as democracy, gender equality, and political and religious moderation. I want to recall that last December, the Spanish Minister for Foreign Affairs, Arantxa González Laya, intervened in the Bali Forum for Democracy. She talked about the challenges that COVID-19 pandemic poses to democracy. Your elections in 2019 were a good and clear example of commitment to democracy through an incredibly complicated logistic challenge that allowed the vote of more than 180 million voters. Our two ministers share a deep commitment to gender equality, and together promoted the UN General Assembly resolution on women, girls, and COVID, a key resolution, as you know, for us. Both countries have suffered from violent extremism in despicable terrorist attacks in Barcelona and Surabaya, to which our two societies reacted with respect to human rights and with a message of tolerance, peaceful dialogue, and the promotion of fundamental rights and values. We also acknowledge Indonesia's leadership in ASEAN. We firmly support your initiatives for peace and religious tolerance in Afghanistan and your defense of democracy in Myanmar. We are really grateful for that. Our position on women, peace and security, and women in peacekeeping are also very close. On our side, I must say that Spain is also a very creative economy with high levels of innovation and technology that are now not always well known to the public. Some of our companies are world leaders in areas of interest to Indonesia, such as infrastructures, civil engineering, and renewable energy. Some of them are already working in Indonesia, and more are considering coming to work to your country. Their success in Australia and the US are getting their best letter of introduction for their high quality, technological solutions, and competitive offer. Your new omnibus legislation and the signature of RCEP are encouraging signs of openness to free trade. The community of more than 500 million people shares the Spanish language, which is in itself an economic asset. Our place in our region and our history build a number of special relations in Europe, the Mediterranean, and South America. Our Muslim heritage of Al-Andalus is also part of our identity and brings us closer to the Ummah. Despite our long common history, as we often say, we need to know each other better, and our bilateral relations are below the par they should be. A lot of work to be done in the good direction. But in these challenging times, we have to work hard, first on economy recovery, an effort that must also achieve a higher level of sustainability, equality, and inclusivity. Our two countries have suffered during the pandemic, especially in the tourism sector, and we need to build back and better. Free trade will be key to this recovery. Indonesia has recently signed, as I said, RCEP with other states in its region. We encourage Indonesia to negotiate also a free trade agreement with the EU. We must ensure mutually a level playing field, equal access to markets, and the protection of investment and intellectual property. In order to be able to do that, we will need to review also our educational systems, thinking in the jobs of the future and the needs of our young. Our universities and business schools have a very important role to play and need to build new partnerships between Europe and Asia. This open tribune wants to be, and I am sure it will be, a step forward to achieve better understanding and to find new partnerships and new content for our relations. Civil society, think tanks, and entrepreneurs and companies are key actors in international relations. I am sure that the interventions of the panelists will propose very interesting areas where we can, of course, work together. Thank you again for this important effort. Muchas gracias. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for reminding us that the Indonesia and Spain shared some historical ties, and then also there are shared concern about our today's problem, terrorism, the fact that Indonesia is a democracy similar to Spain, and also highlighting the need for innovation and adoption of creative technology, and then for the economic recovery. And then I think you also highlighted that Indonesia and ASEAN are two important actors that needs to be engaged, especially when it comes to valuing open trade, as you also highlighted the recently signed RCEP. That would be a platform for trade, open trade relations in the region. That would, I think, also benefit other countries outside the region as well. And now I would like to give the screen to His Excellency Ngurah Swajaya. Pak Ngurah, the screen is yours now.
Thank you very much, Pak Philip. Muchas gracias, Ambassador Ana Solomon. Her Excellency Ambassador Ana Solomon, the Director General of North America, Eastern Europe, Asia, and the Pacific of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Spain, my counterpart, my friend, and also His Excellency Ambassador Jose Maria Matres Marzo, Ambassador of Spain to Indonesia. Of course, yourself, Pak Philip, Executive Director of the CSIS, Mr. Javier Mondo, Director General of Casa Asia, my dear friends from Indonesian Chamber of Commerce or Kadin, Ibu Sinta Kamdani, and also Pak Reza Mas Paitela, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. A very good afternoon from Jakarta, and also good morning to Madrid. I hope to find you all in good health in this difficult and challenging time that we are all facing all over the world. At the outset, I would like to thank the CSIS Indonesia and also Casa Asia for organizing this first Indonesia-Spanish forum. I think this is indeed an important initiative to bring the two countries closer through people-to-people interactions. It is a great pleasure also for me to join this forum to further help us in exploring innovative ways to strengthen bilateral relations between Indonesia and Spain. Let me also extend my appreciation to all the speakers and participants of this virtual forum, and at the same time as well, to emphasize the importance of this forum to complement what we have been doing in terms of the first track diplomacy between the governments of the two countries. The title of the forum, Celebrating Indonesia-Spanish Relations, cannot be more appropriate. This year, as Ambassador Anna mentioned earlier, we are observing 500 years of the visit of the Spanish expeditions led by Joan Sebastian Elcano to Tidore Island back in the 15th centuries. They're certainly very important to be utilized by the two nations, by the two countries as an important impetus in order to enhance our bilateral relations by using these historical links and interactions as the strong basis to promote further our partnership for mutual benefit. This is also essential as we are now facing multifaceted challenges, not only due to the pandemic that we are all facing all over the world that is yet to be addressed, but at the same time also we are facing this global as well as regional political dynamic that is not going to be the same in terms of the challenges that we are facing as compared even to a decade ago. So we are really living in a new dynamic, in new situations that we need to discuss further. We are having this conversation in understanding where we are, as well as also in developing how we will be able to move forward to weather these challenges for the benefits of both Indonesia and Spain. In Asia, we are in fact already entering what we call as the Asian century, where economic indicators of the region will continue to show significant opportunities. We will see the growth in terms of economy will getting stronger, and we believe that we will recover faster in terms of the economic recovery in a post-pandemic situation. So all of those as a background, as a backdrop, I think this forum is really very essential for us to allow the conversation between many experts on Indonesia and Spain, and as well as to come up with a recommendation how we will be able to promote further our bilateral relations. So as we have seen over the past decade, that the two countries have enjoyed a strong bond of friendship since the beginning of our diplomatic relation back in 1958. We shared many important values, as Ambassador Anna mentioned earlier, on many values such as democracy, human rights, good governance, sustainable development, as well as promoting a lower carbon economy in the future. So we have these shared values, and we need to utilize this as the basis for us also to move further. Therefore, when we look at the good relations that we have, certainly, I think the good relation without taking the benefits in terms of economic benefit for mutual interests of both countries as well as both people, So good relation is not enough, but I think what we need to do is to really identify where we can enhance further the partnership and also where we can collaborate together in terms of addressing the different geopolitical challenges that we have, be it in the region as well as at the global level. So our bilateral relation is in good shape, and I think it's continued to be solid. However, we also should ask ourselves whether this is enough, whether we need to enhance further, so then we will be able to develop partnerships that really work for both of us. The frank discussion among the two think tanks, which is facilitated by CSIS and Casa, which is very much appreciated, could therefore play a very essential role to help identify what areas we have commonalities and where we have our common interests to pursue our common objectives for our shared values as well as for the mutual benefits of the people of the two countries. One of the historical discussion, as I previously mentioned, could also be common interest for both to be utilized as the emphasis for us to increase our cooperation dates back many centuries ago. Although this is in a different context, but this represents interest to enhance our partnership have already been there before, and now I think we should utilize this further in the new context, in the new challenges, in the new dynamics that we are all facing now. So I think no question about the intentions of the two nations, no question about the interests of the two nations, because it has already been there before, but certainly this has to be adjusted to the current dynamic, to the current situations, as well as how we will be able to move further to achieve our common goals. So our meeting today should utilize many aspects and also should focus on addressing some of the common challenges and also identifying what are the common interests that we have, opportunities that we can tap together in developing further our bilateral partnership. We have seen uncertainty over the past 4 years, over the past many years, and until now we do not see as yet if they are already, we are moving toward correct directions, but certainly COVID really very much, the pandemic is very much influencing everything what we do. But at the same time, I think there should be ideas as well as innovation that we can do in order to enhance our bilateral cooperation. Over the past decade, Indonesia has not only becoming a trillion economy here in the region, but it also continues with a significant progress, significant potential through many efforts that we have already been undertaken and implemented. This includes certainly the enactment of the latest significant legislative reform to synchronize almost 80 different legislations in Indonesia in the form of the omnibus law and all of the implementing agreements. This is not enough, but at the same time also, the government just also newly launched Indonesia Investment Authority, or we call it INA, and this again provide a significant platform on how we will be able to really enhance our bilateral economic cooperation, tapping the potentials that is growing not only in Indonesia, but also in the region. Regionally, despite challenges in terms of political and security dynamics that we are facing, Indonesia is certainly provide a best position to continue playing its active role, as Ambassador Anna mentioned earlier, on many issues that we are facing, even in ASEAN, as has already been mentioned earlier in terms of the situation in Myanmar. I think we are playing an active role, but at the same time, I think we are also improving in terms of the potentials that we have here in the region. Ambassador Anna mentioned earlier about RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. Well, people are saying that this is not the best quality, but we have to bear in mind that this agreement includes those countries that has never entered into a trade agreement between each other before. So this is a significant progress. This is something that we cannot even imagine before this is going to happen. Finally, the agreement signs, the agreement provides an opportunity, and Indonesia is certainly in the best position for you to be the basis to expand further your enterprise in terms of economy here in the region. But not only economy, but also we could be a good partner to discuss on the geopolitical situations here in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned earlier that Spain remains a very important European partner for Indonesia. Spain has been a partner in developing strategic industries in Indonesia, particularly when we are talking about aircraft as well as shipbuilding industry. So we have certainly something already, that we can utilize and to expand this potential further. Spain is among the largest trading partners of Indonesia within the European Union, importing a significant quantity of Indonesian agricultural commodities, including also vegetable oils. And we have a discussion with our counterpart in a bilateral discussions, the need for us to really promote unhindered trade, prevent protectionist tendency when we need trade in order to recover the economy in the post-pandemic situations. So we should not allow restrictions, hindrance to trade continues to be put as a barrier by using whatever argument that people tend to use in order to restrict trade, because this is not going to help us all over the world in order to recover the economy in the post-pandemic situation. So the same goes also for investment. I think Spanish investment in Indonesia is still very small as compared to the potentials. Then I hope that our Spanish companies could also consider Indonesia in the context of utilizing RCEP, in the context of diversifying global supply chains, where it was badly affected when we faced the trade war over the past 4 years. It was also badly affected when we faced the pandemic situations. So I think we need to, diversify the global supply chains. And I think Indonesia, certainly with the shared values that we have, is a good destination for Spanish company to invest. Indonesia and European Union is currently negotiating CEPA, Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. It was not really very smooth sailing, and therefore we need our Spanish colleague to help this advance further, so that we can utilize or unlock the potentials that we have between Indonesia and Spain, Indonesia and European Union. What I would like also to emphasize here to our Spanish friends, that Indonesia, in terms of the geopolitical dynamic, is your best partner in the engagement between European Union and the region. We know that European Union is now coming up with strategy on Indo-Pacific, but then of course, you have to have a good partners to have a discussion to promote further your idea. So then I think Indonesia and the EU with the strategic partnership that we have, should really moving based on the commonalities, based on the common ideas rather than differences that we have. So differences is always there, but certainly this forum can also be a forum for us to address the differences that we have. So to conclude, before concluding my interventions here, let me just underline three main forum for you to discuss further. The three main ideas. First, of course, the ongoing reform in Indonesia is very crucial, and this is uninterrupted. We are continuously undertaking reform to make Indonesia conducive for foreign direct investment, to make Indonesia conducive as a partner for your engagement in the region. But at the same time, Indonesia continues its active role in maintaining peace and stability in the region. We are promoting dialogue rather than coercing each other. We are providing platform for conversation, and I think Indonesia will certainly continue to play that particular role. And this is also crucial for all of us when considering about what I mentioned earlier about the Asian century that we are already in now. Second, in terms of the infrastructure and human resources development, this is still a top priority for Indonesian government, and this has already been continuously undertaken, even in the middle of the pandemic situations. Infrastructure development never stopped in Indonesia. At the same time, also, we are providing a lot of opportunities for other parties to invest in the economically viable infrastructure development through the Indonesia Investment Authority, as I mentioned earlier. And I think Indonesia-Spain has a lot of strong basis for us to develop further. As I mentioned earlier, aircraft industries, we are collaborating with them. I'm very proud to learn that we also have the new training ship, the tall ship to train our navy, which was also made in Spain. The tall ship called Bima Suci. I think this is really, again, another important basis for us to move further for enhancing our bilateral cooperation. And the third and final, Ambassador Anna mentioned earlier as well, that in terms of digital economy, I think Indonesia is the biggest player in the region, in ASEAN. And this will continue to be the biggest players, and the potential is huge. And that is the reason why I think focusing on digital economy, on how we are going to move further, is essential in our bilateral relation, including also how Spain can also engage with ASEAN on this subject. So once again, was to congratulate and commend these events, this initiative, and certainly we have a lot of hope that your frank discussion will coming up with out of the box ideas that will certainly provide us with a very important recommendations for us on how to move further our relations that has already been dates back even 500 years. So with that, thank you very much, and have a good and fruitful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And thank you for highlighting the fact that the relations between Spain and Indonesia have already so many modalities. What we need to do now, as you mentioned in your presentation, is to enhance and deepen the relationship. And then you provide us with three ideas for a start, that to remind our Spanish friends that Indonesia is committed for the ongoing reform, to streamline our bureaucracy, to make it more conducive for investment coming from overseas, especially now in the context of Spain. And then also you highlight the fact as well that in terms of Indonesia's role in the region, Indonesia has been a consistent player that try to keep the region stable and peaceful. And that's, I think, very important in view of this new strategic environment, geopolitically speaking. And also, Indonesia is committed for infrastructure development and human resources development as well. And lastly, I think probably in the next session in the economy, digital economy is one of so many areas that actually Indonesia and Spain can do a lot together. Thank you, Ambassador Ngurah Swajaya, and also Ambassador Anna Salamon, for your insightful insight to kick off this first session. Now, I'd like to go to our discussions that would probably be offering, concrete views and steps, and in terms of the two countries' relations. We have His Excellency Ambassador Jose Maria Matres Manso in Jakarta, and then from business perspective, we are going to have Mr. Reza Faldo Maspaitela, and then we have also a perspective from the academics from Dr. Awaludin Marwan. I'd like to invite Ambassador Jose Matres for 5 or 7 minutes intervention. Screen is yours, Ambassador.
Thank you very much. Salamat sore for those of us who are in Indonesia. Buenos dias for those who are in Spain. It is really a pleasure to participate in this first forum between Indonesia and Spain, which is taking the shape of a brainstorming session, since so many good ideas are being put on the table. I know that time constraints are important, so I'll do my best to comply with that. But I would like to share the welcoming remarks and the congratulatory messages that have been conveyed and delivered to both sides and to our respective audiences by the directors of CSIS in Jakarta and Casa Asia in Spain, as well as by the directors general at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Jakarta and at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Spain. There are lots of things to say and lots of areas of cooperation. I agree fully. Well, first of all, let me say that both directors general have perfectly outlined the general framework that inspires the bilateral relations between Spain and Indonesia. And they have outlined very clearly, indeed, the principles guiding our approach to each other, particularly in the case of Spain. And Director General Ana Salomon has been extremely clear in regards to the principles that guide our approach to Indonesia. I fully agree with something very important that Director General Swajaya has said, and it has to do with the level of our bilateral relations. Indeed, our bilateral relations are very good, and we don't have, fortunately, any irritant between our two countries. But I fully agree that there is a lot that has to be done to further strengthen and to deep root our relations. And political dialogue has already taken place, as Director General Ana Salomon said. Back in August, on the 27th of August, Spain and Indonesia held the first round of political consultations at the level of Directors General, and the main guidelines and principles inspiring our relations were put on the table. That is perfect. Now, if you allow me, and after a long time serving in Asian countries, almost 17 years, one of the things I have learned from my professional experience in Asia is that personal-to-personal relations are crucial. And they are crucial first to pave the way for steps forward, and crucial also to settle down would-be irritants and problems between our two countries. We are all aware that, unfortunately, we are deeply immersed in this pandemic, which is making movements from one country to another country, or people meeting people from other country almost impossible. But I strongly believe, and this is the message that I regularly convey to my authorities in Madrid, and I am happy that the Director General at my ministry, Ana Salomon, is here sharing this panel discussion. One of the messages I always convey is that the flow of high-level visits between Spain and Indonesia should really materialize. I know that we are far distant countries, geographically speaking, but as soon as mobility so permits, our two countries should start, little by little, exchanging high-level visits that would enable us to keep on moving ahead in our bilateral relations. That is very important from my perspective and from my work in Indonesia and in other Asian countries before. I know that my time is limited, but I will not touch at all our economic and trade cooperation, since this is going to be the object of session 2, and we have experienced trigger speakers and panelists who will focus on these matters. I just want to say that, again, we should, taking into consideration the fact that we are brainstorming on this first forum between our two countries, but there are some areas of cooperation that I think should be taken into consideration. I know they are already present both at the level of the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Spain and at the level of the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Yakarta. One point, for instance, that I will not really elaborate on, but I will mention, because it falls completely on the second session, is tourism. I mean, this is a huge area of cooperation between Spain and Indonesia, and with a huge potential. Spain hosts the World Tourism Organization, and both countries, Spain and Indonesia, are pillars and very important references in the world of tourism, and we should really cooperate further on that, much further, But what I want to say is that Spain is present in Indonesia, mainly in the hospitality sector. We have the Melia hotels present in Yogyakarta, in Bali, in Jakarta. But there is a new pillar that is taking off, which turns around the gastronomy. So we would like, Spain to be more present in Indonesia. And so far, the Embassy of Spain is preparing a food week, probably during this first semester, that will go around the spices. We are all talking about the spices, and right now we have the North Maluku as a point of reference. So it would be great, and it would be, a perfect combination, a perfect match between Spain and Indonesia to organize this week, gastronomical week, as to say, around the spices, because it would really, present a perfect opportunity for both countries to cooperate on this very important matter. This is one of the areas that I am proposing to both sides, The second area, which is also very important, particularly for Spain, is the teaching of Spanish as a foreign language. I mean, Indonesia with 270 million people, and on the one side, and on the other side, Spain with the second most important and most spoken language in the world, our presence in Indonesia is at a very, very incipient stage. And the teaching of Spanish in Indonesia is on private hands right now. Unfortunately, we don't have any single university in Indonesia where there is a Spanish department. We don't have at all a group of recognized Spanish scholars. So, of course, we have in Jakarta our Aula Cervantes, which is the branch of the Instituto Cervantes that is doing a great job, absolutely outstanding job. But if we really want Spanish language to be included in the curricular kind of activities of both schools and universities, there has to be a great effort. As far as my country is concerned, we have three main characters, three main key actors, better to say, which are the Instituto Cervantes, of course, the Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Universities, that coordinated and under the supervision, since we are talking about international activities of my ministry, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation, and of course of the Spanish Agency of International Cooperation, we could elaborate a strategy, to promote the teaching of Spanish language in Indonesia at a kind of official level, to make it part of the curricular activities of both schools, but mainly universities. And why not vice versa? Maybe our universities in Spain, could introduce the learning of Bahasa language as an optional activity that would definitely bring our peoples closer together and would increase the knowledge of our both countries regarding our cultural, economic, political situation. So this is another area of cooperation where I think our countries would benefit a lot. There is another area, is the interfaith dialogue. We have been mentioning the tolerance in Indonesia, the coexistence of various beliefs in this country. And Spain has also a long tradition of coexistence, a long tradition. We have a shared history with Islam, and we value our Islamic past very highly. So this would be, again, a perfect area of cooperation. We held back in 2010 the first round of interfaith dialogue. It was a success. Unfortunately, since 2010 until now, there hasn't been the second round. I would propose both countries, to study the possibility of organizing a second round of interfaith dialogue, this time in Jakarta, because if I'm not mistaken, the first round took place in Madrid back in 2010. There is the Alliance of Civilization, founded in 2008, where Spain and Indonesia work out together beautifully. So why not? Again, Bali hosted back in 2014 a forum of the Alliance of Civilization, and at that time, our then Foreign Minister García Margallo attended the meeting, and again, it was a success. So this is another area of cooperation that could really, put forward and relapse our bilateral relations. My Director General, Ana Salomon, has mentioned a very crucial and important point, which is one of the pillars of our foreign policy right now, and this is the gender issue. Again, Spain and Indonesia have a lot to do regarding this important matter. And we all are aware that both the Indonesian Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Spanish Minister of Foreign Affairs have a perfect synchrony in terms of gender issues. And as my Director General mentioned before, they have participated together in video conferences regarding gender issues in the post-COVID situation. Indeed, my foreign minister participated at the last Democracy Forum in Bali and mentioned and underlined and really, emphasize on the importance of gender issues guiding the foreign policy of Spain. Participation of women, among other matters, in the economy, the reinforcement of women's role in mediation and negotiation, participation of women in peacekeeping operations. And here, for instance, Indonesia and Spain share a common ground. We are among the most important contributors, among other peacekeeping operations, in UNIFIL in Lebanon. So And we have a high component of women integrating this peacekeeping mission, protection of human rights of women. And something very important, which is a side effect, unfortunately, of the pandemic, which is the domestic violence against women and children. Again, Spain and Indonesia could work together on that. And finally, I know, Philip, that my time is over. I'm very sorry about that, but many things to say. We have the 500th anniversary of the first circumnavigation of the globe by the expedition Magellan Elcano. Just to let you know that tonight, early in the morning, I will travel to Ternate, Antidori, accompanied by almost the whole staff at my embassy, because we are commemorating with a lot of events, cultural events, political events, this historic deed by the Portuguese and Spanish expeditioners. So this, again, is showcasing a very important pillar also of Spanish foreign policy, which is public diplomacy. And that will definitely bring our two peoples and our two nations together. Sorry if I abused my time, and thank you very much for your patience first and for listening to me. Thank you very much. Terima kasih.
Thank you, Ambassador. And of course, there are a lot of ideas and a lot of initiatives and a lot of opportunities for deepening the cooperation as we listen to you, Ambassador Jose Matres. Now, I'd like to go directly to our second discussion, Mr. Reza Maspatela. 5 to 7 minutes for you, Mr. Maspatela. Screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Philip Fermonte from CSIS, of giving me the opportunity to share. First of all, greetings for both of our Director Generals from Spain and also from Indonesia, Mrs. Anna Solomon and Mr. Ngurah Sonjaya of the Republic of Indonesia, and also to Casa Asia, Mr. Xavier Parondo, and also to CSIS Indonesia, Mr. Philip Fermonte. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity. Hearing from the sharing from both Director Generals and also from the various parties earlier, it is clear that not only that Spain and Indonesia have a shared value, but also we have a shared history that through the shared history basically is where the first globalization started, when the first voyage of that ship from Spain arrived in Tidore, North Maluku, or is famous for being called the Spice Island. And through that shared, the two most important part, the shared value and also the shared history, which together we crafted the journey about the global economy. It is important now, especially after the process of the, as everybody's now talking about the new normal, everybody's talking about the recovery process of the global economy. I think through these activities, the discussion today, the brainstorming today, is a good opportunity of how do we together, as not only as government, not only as the private sectors, but also communities and also the academy, can start co-create together and designing the future relationship between Spain and Indonesia. From the private sector and also being an entrepreneur myself and also being part of the Indonesian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, I would like to share my point of view from the various guidance that has been spoken earlier. I quite agree that it is important for us together to redesign how are we going to create the future together. We have the shared history, where through the shared history, the famous spice road trade is one of the previous history that through the spice that the spice road is very well known as part of the distribution channel throughout the global between the Spice Island of the Maluku and North Maluku, all the way down in Spain or in Europe in general. So with this opportunity, we need to create the dream together. How are we going to move forward? Now, in this era of new normal and also in this era of digital transformation, I would like to propose that the digital economy can be used as a base in terms of how do we co-create, and then how do we co-produce, and how can we also co-distribute to support the trade between Indonesia and also Spain, but also at the same time how we can play a role of Spain as the channel of the distribution, as the gateway through Europe, for example. But Indonesia at the same time can become your gateway to ASEAN and Asia in general. So by saying this, that we need to identify what are the 1, 2, 3 or 1 to 10 industrial sector that we feel that we can collaborate in terms of creating a global product together, or through the co-creation, the co-produce, and also the co-distribution, that we can offer something to the global because of this unique combination of our strength that we are putting together. And that has been already being shown, just like Director General Ngurah Sanjaya have mentioned, that we have started in the aerospace arena and also other aspects. But how do we continue on different sector of economy? Now, to start, what is easy? Of course, trade is the easiest way to start. Ambassadors Jose Matos mentioned about tourism. Mentioned about also gastronomy, mentioned about how we can promote also languages between the two nations. This is the three top initiatives that I think that can be started as soon as possible. How do we do that if we're going to start in these two areas? In this new normal, since digital transformation is moving, I would like to give an example. For example, how can we conduct the digital trade? For example, through the various cross-border e-commerce platform that Indonesia have. And probably at the same time, also Spain has a variety of digital e-commerce platform. How do we combine the integration of the various cross-border e-commerce that is existing in our two countries to become the digital link for us to conduct the trade between the two nations that's relating to the B2B, but also B2B2C directly. For example, I'm talking again the example of Maluku and Northern Maluku. Maluku and Northern Maluku is not just famous for the spices, but also for the fish, for example. 6 o'clock in the morning in the sea, the Banda Sea, or in the sea of Northern Maluku area, that a fisherman caught a fish, bring the fish to the shore, and then at 10 o'clock being processed into, let's say, a tuna loin, but at the same time, through the flight of Garuda, whether it be from Ternate, whether from Ambon, goes directly to Jakarta, and it can be shipped directly to Madrid or Barcelona in Spain. And at the same time, usually the plane landed around 7 o'clock in the morning. It can be distributed not only to the Spain hospitality industry, but also to the supermarket throughout Europe, for example. So this is something that probably that we can do vice versa through the digital platform. At the same time, also promoting the tourism between the two countries. Just I would like to share about an initiative that a group of companies in the Indonesian tourism industry that we are trying to push also prior to the pandemic, an investment from Indonesia coming into Spain. As we are aware, there's a lot of many castles in Spain, and also many good location for tourism. And the idea is that how does the Indonesian hospitality industry come in together to invest and also to bring the Asia tourists coming in through Spain. So this is also an example of how we can also promote tourism, vice versa. And last but not least, in regarding to the digital economy, at the moment we are coordinating for an event in August, prior to our Independence Day, 17th of August, that because Indonesia is the promising and the biggest digital economy in the region, in ASEAN, that we are creating a strategic global digital hub collaboration globally. So the idea is that how, for example, a Silicon Valley in Indonesia be working together with Silicon Valley in the US. So at the moment, we are already able getting the support from countries like Australia, China, Canada, in terms of building this digital hub collaboration between different nations. So the idea is that probably we can do the same thing also with the participation of Spain. By having this digital hub, this is the opportunity where we can co-create, the opportunity where we can co-produce, and from there, we jointly distributed our product together. So this is just an example of, I just like to keep my 5 to 7 minutes in time. I mean, there's a lot of many ideas that we can share, but I thought this can be the first 2-3 things that we can start between Spain and Indonesia. Thank you very much, Mr. Phillips, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Pak Reza, and thank you for keeping up the time. It seems that with you exposed some agreement with the previous speakers on various areas that for sure it indicates people are thinking along the same line. We can discuss that later, I think, in the second session. Now, I'd like to go directly to Dr. Awaludin Marwan, lecturer, University Bayangkara, and CEO of Hello. 5 to 7 minutes is yours now.
Thank you, Bapak Dr. Philip Vermonte, Executive Director, CSIS Indonesia. Dear His Excellency I Gede Ngurah Swajaya, Director General for American and European Affairs, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia. Her Excellency Ana Salomon, Director General for North America, Eastern Europe, ASEAN Pacific, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Spain. His Excellency Jose Maria Matres Manso, Ambassador of Spain to Indonesia. And thank you for CIS also to Javier, Mr. Javier Barondo, Director General of Casa Asia. And my senior also, Pak Reza Faldo, learned a lot from your speak and all participants. I would like to give my short presentations about connecting digital startup ecosystem in Indonesia and Spain. Perhaps I can shorter than 5 or 7 minutes. This is me when I was in Spain. I conducted my Master of Art at Oñati Institute, International Institute for the Sociology of Law. And then I continue my PhD at Utrecht University in Netherlands, finished in 2018. Now I teaching in the private university in Indonesia, Bayangkara University, and also conducted action research. So I established also startup in the legal text, and this is my product, my startup. So I invite many lawyers because law in Indonesia I seem like a very expensive, and then it's difficult to get access to lawyers. So then I invite many lawyers to serve people with an easier way through the mobile apps. And also I provide the legal dictionary that people can learn law easily. Then I also provide the e-learning that people can learn law easily through the applications anytime and anywhere. And I come to the relationship between Spain and Indonesia. The relationship is very good because we can learn from Spain in terms of innovations. As I mentioned here, that Global Innovation Index 2020, that Spain in the high ranking, ranking number 30, and Indonesia in the middle. That we may learn a lot from Spain in terms of innovations. And also, I see the opportunity about the digital economy I mentioned in the previous speakers, that Spain has two unicorns, Glovo and KBV. And the typical of this unicorn is like almost the same as Indonesia decacorns about food delivery and ride-hailing services. So we may connect these unicorns to have speak together to extend or scale up their market. Because if I compare to the Netherlands, for instance, because I also conducted research between Indonesia and Netherlands, mostly the startup there's about EI and the fintech. So Spain is very good opportunity have a kind of a similar type of a unicorn or startup as like Indonesia. We have a Gojek, ride-hailing services. We have e-commerce, two e-commerce, Tokopedia, Bukalapak, and we have transportation online like a Traveloka, and we have a fintech. So we also may export the technology and the team to Spain, because Spain also may have two functions as a kid to Europe and kid to the Latin America, because as a learn from Glovo and KBV, they also enter Latin America market easily because the language, because like Mexico and Argentina and some of Latin America countries use Spanish as their mother tongue. And beside the startup connections, we may connect the venture capital and private equity association in Spain and Indonesia, because the venture capital companies is a key also for strengthening the digital economy. Without proper and developed a good venture capital private equity association, it's difficult to establish the digital startup ecosystem. Like in the Silicon Valley, 1,000 venture capital supporting the technological companies. So Anvasindo here with Pak Edward also speaking in the following sections. We may connect to Asociación Española de Capital. And then we can also bring together the universities, because university also like the place that we can emphasize the entrepreneurship and incubator to accelerate the digital economy. We have Pinus University in Indonesia, SPM ITB, and we can connect some university in Spain, like Universidad Autónoma de Madrid, and other university that might conduct research and provide incubator to establish many flowing startup. And I put some question in the last my presentations, what we can do. I have 3 questions that we may explore about can we conduct research, because CSIS also as a think tank groups and very famous in conducting research. So potential collaboration of connecting digital startup ecosystem in Indonesia and with Spain is typoed here. We may conduct potential collaborations, the connecting digital startup ecosystem in Indonesia and Spain, and connecting the Indonesian Spain startup discussions, and also invite more government institutions, because it's not foreign affair business, but also the creative industry, the ICT minister also can be invited to join with us. And the last, can we harmonize some legal barrier for countries in doing business and taxation and compliance? Thank you. That's all from me. You may contact me in this email. Muchas gracias and terima kasih banyak. Thank you, Pak Philips.
Thank you, Pak Waludin, for a very interesting presentation. I think this session have provided us with so many ideas. Unfortunately, I do not have time to refresh and provide a long list of ideas. But I will give later on the opportunity to Fitri as the forum moderator to summarize all this discussion. And now I let you now control the session number 2. Back to you, Fitri. Thank you very much to all speakers for your thoughtful interventions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Philips Vermonte, Executive Director from Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS Indonesia. It has been a very interesting session. We have had the pleasure and privilege to hear from both country, Indonesia and Spain, Director General of the long history of Indonesia and Spain, and Ambassador of Spain to Indonesia, Excellency Jose Manso. Congratulations that your piece is published in Jakarta Post that tell the story of the 500 years of circumnavigation. So it summarized, and of course we heard so much of the possibilities that the two countries can embark on, both from the government as well as the people and businesses, and Bapak Reza Mastapayla mentioned earlier as well how we can have innovation between people and then the society. And meanwhile, Dr. Awaludin Marwan mentioned about the technical innovation, collaboration and perhaps investment exploration. That touch upon economic innovation, because of the limit of time, I would like to continue on to our session 2 on strengthening Indonesia-Spain cooperation amid the COVID pandemic, as we feel the heat both countries, and perhaps all countries and affected, and we all trying to cope, and perhaps cooperation would be one of the ways that we can rebound our economy together. I would like to call the moderator for this session, Mr. Amadio Jensana. I hope you're here with us. Mr. Amadio Jensana is
hello.
The director.
Yes.
Yes. Hello. Buenos dias, Mr. Amadio Jensana.
Buenos dias. Well, good afternoon to you in Indonesia, and buenos dias to my colleagues here in Spain. It's an honor and a privilege actually to moderate this session on strengthening economic cooperation between Indonesia and Spain. Basically, we would like to focus on really two things, which I think are very important. First of all, to talk about the current situation of the Indonesian-Spain relations in the economic field, but also, as the title mentions, we would like to focus also on the future and to give new ideas under the situations marked by the pandemic, on how can we cooperate in new areas. Some of those areas have been just mentioned before, like the digital economy, startups, but I think tourism, for instance, the ambassador mentioned tourism, which I think is quite important, but there are other areas, like for instance, industry 4.0, logistics or health. So hopefully actually this session will be of interest for all of you. And our first trigger speaker will be actually Dr. Fahar Hirawan. Dr. Hirawan is an economist and is a researcher of the Department of Economics at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. So Dr. Fahar, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Amadio, for the kind introductions. Please allow me to share my screen. So thank you again for your kind introductions. Her and His Excellencies, distinguished speakers and guests, and all CSIS, Casa Asia, and Ministry of Foreign Affairs Fellow. A very good afternoon here in Yakarta, and also a good morning in Spain. So thank you for the opportunity to be involved in Indonesia and Spain Forum 2021. I don't know what happened with this share screen. I think, do you see my screen? Yeah, okay, so thank you. So I would like to share my thought on how to accelerate global economic recovery post-COVID-19, especially when we are talking about Indonesia and Spain in this case. So the opportunities and challenges. So you may argue with me regarding the term post-COVID, because I think most of you think that we are still in the midst of COVID, right? So, well, at least, like I have a positive expectations and positive, I have optimisms that the economic stimulus and the vaccine program that has started since the mid of 2020 and the beginning of 2020, in the beginning of 2021, will end the pandemic soon. So for today's presentation, I will divide my presentation into 3 parts. So I will start with the current development of the global economy during 2020. Then I will share some ASEAN and Indonesian's current development, especially in the trade and investment sector. And finally, I will share some opportunities and challenges to go forward, especially regarding the bilateral relationship between Indonesia and Spain. So now let's begin with the global economic development. So I think all of us agree that the COVID-19 has impacted almost all stakeholders and sectors, businesses, household, governments, the financial sectors, and the rest of the world. It has multiple strikes in the circular flow of income. There is a disruptions, in trading and investment activity. So moreover, there are so many disruptions in almost all markets. When you see this slide, probably you may already know that some releases from the National Statistics Office show that in 2020, most of countries are facing negative economic growth, I think including Spain and Indonesia in this case. US, Singapore, South Korea, Indonesia, EU, and some other countries, including Spain, are experiencing a contraction, I think, during 2020. And some others, like China and Vietnam, are still enjoying their positive economic growth during the pandemic. Now I will show you what happened to China and the US as the major economies in the world. The data shows that the business confidence index, that is also represented by the manufacturing purchasing manager index, has started to be positive or in the expansion phase since March 2020 in the case of China, and has started to be positive in July 2020 in the case of the US. So these positive trends happen after their government has started to ease the lockdown policy. So, well, this positive trend, hopefully continue, in the upcoming years. But if you see the consumer confidence index for both countries are still showing a dynamic pattern. There are still uncertainty related to consumer behavior in both countries. And furthermore, I believe that most other countries experience the same pattern, including Indonesia and Spain. So since both countries, China and the United States, are strategic economic partners for most of the countries in the world, I think we all agree that we are always hoping that there will be a positive trend in their economic indicators post-COVID-19, so that the economic activity, especially trade and investment, will start to grow positively. But you can see here, the good news is that most international institutions like IMF and World Bank predict that in the following years, starting this year, 2021, the world's economic growth, advanced economies and emerging markets and developing economies will be positive. So nevertheless, I believe that optimism could be realized as long as the economic recovery and the vaccine program runs smoothly. Now we move on the ASEAN and Indonesia's economic development. So why I choose ASEAN? Because I think ASEAN as a middle economic power looks promising, not only in terms of market size, but also due to rapid economic progress in any aspect within the region. As the biggest country in ASEAN, I believe that Indonesia also expected to play a significant role in ASEAN. Thus, it could trigger a global economic recovery. From the ASEAN perspective, as you can see from the slides, that the pandemic has brought immediate disruptions in economic activities across the region. You can see there is a decline in tourism flows, and it's good that His Excellency Jose Matres already mentioned that we have to boost the tourism and culinary sectors in the future. And there are so many other disruptions that, shown a negative performance during the pandemic. So from the ASEAN Manufacturing PMI, or Purchasing Manager Index figure, it shows that ASEAN manufacturing has started to show an expansion since December 2020. But most ASEAN countries also show the same pattern, except Myanmar. As you can see that they seem facing a contraction quite late due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So I will go forward, trying to analyze, to identify from the table here that you can see the value of trading activity between ASEAN and the global world that is approaching up to $3 trillion. The flow of trade within ASEAN member countries, like an intra-regional trade market share, is maintained by over 20%. It was followed by ASEAN China and ASEAN US, but you can see that EU shows that it become the top 5 of the strategic trading partner for the ASEANs. From the investment perspective, as you can see also that the EU also have a significant role in investing the money in the region. And as you can see that, this is the most important things to do, in order to improve the relationship between Spain and Indonesia, in this case, in order to boost the economic activity, including the investment. So when we try to figure it out, which sectors that the world and other ASEAN strategic partners invest their money in the ASEAN market, from the table you can see that ASEAN is targeted as the manufacturing industry's investment destination. You can see that, the world investor, the US investor, even the Japan, EU, and China investor targeted the manufacturing sectors. But I can say that it means that ASEAN will become a new production center globally, and we hope that it could promote the global supply chain and the global production network in the future. So meanwhile, the services sector seems also becoming the main target of investors who interested to invest their money in the region. So I think some of the panelists already mentioned about the digital economy and how to improve the Industry 4.0 when we are talking about Indonesia and Spain relationship. So how about Spain here? How about Spain investor in ASEAN? So based on the figure, the Spain investment share to total EU investment is still under 5% during 2013 to 2019. Still very small, but I think there is still a room for improvement. Manufacturing industry and services sectors looks likely being prioritized by the Spain's investors based on the table you can see from the screen. So the next slide that I want to show you that, so what is the future collaboration that could be engaged between Indonesia and Spain? I think based on this sectoral composition of the economy in Indonesia and Spain, I do believe that Indonesia could collaborate more in services sectors, since more than 70% of Spain's economy contributed from services sectors. So I think it's quite relevant what the previous speakers mentions that we could boost the role of the services sector here, since Spain I think is very good in improving and developing the services sector in the country. So this is my last sections, the way forward, the opportunities and challenges. So what are the opportunities then related to Indonesia and Spain relationship. So number one, I believe that the data show that there is like a recovery phase or a positive trend in some countries and some regions, especially the significant and the major economies. So I think this is a good foundation in order to boost the economic recovery. And number two, I think we could promote what's so-called the innovation-based economy or the less contact economy. And I think it's quite relevant, like when Spain economy contributed mainly from the services sectors. And the third point that, like now we are dealing with the new normal, with the vaccination program and also the economic stimulus program, and hopefully that, like it could end the pandemics. And there are three things that I want to share with you about the key development priorities that probably could be, and that are consistently discussed, nationally, regionally, and also globally. What are they? Reindustrialization, connectivity, and innovation. And I think it's quite relevant based on the topics that we are discussing right now. And the challenges, of course, still there are some countries that severely hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. And then we do afraid that, this situation, due to the limited mobility, the situation might force them to be more inward looking. So I think this could be a threat for the multilateralism in the future. Number two, I think, some countries trying to improve their economic capacity. So I believe that, the economic recovery program, the infrastructure development, connectivity and digital technology still become the major development for Indonesia, especially in this case, but we have a lack of financial resources. So I think we need to collaborate more to improve that capacity. Number three, the uncertainty. Again, there is like a new variant of COVID-19. We do hope that it won't really affect the economy in the futures. And last but not least, I think, we have to adopt and adapt. Because the development priorities might shift or change post-COVID-19. I will stop there, Dr. Amadeo. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Fahar Hirawan, for your very clear presentations and also for your ideas, actually, to boost cooperation between Spain and Indonesia in areas like innovation and also in the service sector. Actually, our next trigger speaker is Ms. Aitana Araceli Miguez. She's an economist. She belongs to the group of state economists and trade experts of the Spanish government, and currently she's the economic and commercial counselor for Indonesia at the Embassy of Spain in Indonesia. Aitana, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having introduced me, Amadeo. Good morning, Spain. Good afternoon, Indonesia. I will start quickly as we are already running out of time. I'm going to share with you my screen to show a presentation in order to make my speech more visual. I'm going to speak about these three main topics related to the relations between Indonesia and Spain. Indonesia is a large market. With a population of 270 million people, it is the fourth most populous country in the world, the largest economy in Southeast Asia, and the fourth largest in the entire Asian continent. Its strong economic performance has led to the rise of a huge Indonesian middle class, around 70 million people, that is young, dynamic, with a higher purchasing power and highly adapted to new technologies. Indonesia offers great opportunities for cooperation with Spain, which is reflected in the data on bilateral relations between both countries. Regarding foreign trade, there is a positive trend in our exports to Indonesia, what also reflects the growing interest of Spanish companies in this market. However, in terms of volume, exports from Indonesia to Spain represent up to 4 times more than those from Spain to Indonesia. If we look at the main export sectors in the right side of this slide, we see that vegetable oils, including palm oil, are our main import from Indonesia, representing almost 50% of total imports. Unfortunately, capital flows between both countries are still quite low, around 1%. So there is a huge potential for foreign investment between Spain and Indonesia. In this regard, we want to welcome the entry into force of the Omnibus Law and its development regarding foreign investment, which has opened the door to the participation of foreign capital in major investment projects. This favors collaboration with the local partners, especially through public-private partnerships or PPP, but also through business-to-business agreements with local companies, promoting job creation and technology transfer among them. For this purpose, there is an instrument called the Fund for the Internationalization of Spanish Companies, or FIEM, which provides financial and institutional support to companies that are committed to projects of special interest in Indonesia. As we have seen, there is still room to enhance higher economic collaboration between Spain and Indonesia. Despite their differences, we are facing two countries with some structural similarities in the economy, so the pandemic has also had similar effects on them. That's why the post-COVID stage is a good moment to share some experiences and to explore new opportunities of cooperation in our attempt to reactivate the economy. As our ambassador said, the first structural similarity between the Spanish and the Indonesian economies is how they rely on the tourism sector. Spain has been an important tourist power since the 70s. In 2019, it was the second country in the world in number of foreign tourists per year, which is especially outstanding because it doubles the total of the Spanish population. Even before the pandemic, Spanish authorities have been focused on diversifying the tourist offer, both geographically and by sector. The strategy is to exploit new kinds of tourism, such as gastronomic, cultural, sustainable, or institutional tourism. This would also help new regions to participate of the benefits of this sector by creating employment and wealth for the less dynamic regions. Indonesia's plans on tourism, which we can see in the screen, also seek to revitalize the less exploited regions, providing opportunities to new ways of tourism with significant knock-on effects on many other sectors. Another common characteristic of our economies is that most of the businesses are represented by small, medium, and micro enterprises. These companies have little financial muscle to face the shocks of the economy. For this reason, the authorities' first response to the pandemic was to introduce economic stimulus package and direct aid programs for them in order to guarantee the survival of these businesses and the families behind them. After this short-term response, now is the time to help these businesses to adapt to the new scenario through economic innovation. Our objective is to build stronger and more resilient companies by exploring new economic sectors as digital and creative economy and all recovery strategies as internationalization. Internationalization helps our companies to access to bigger markets and to discover new business opportunities outside our borders. 10 years ago, the Spanish economy was into a deep economic crisis. So many of our companies started in foreign markets, and as a result, external demand was able to drive Spain's economic recovery. This is an example of how the foreign sector could become a catalyst for economic recovery, both in Indonesia and in Spain, as it did 1 decade ago. In this regard, there is a large network of almost 100 Spanish trade offices around the world that assist their companies in their internationalization processes. In the same way, the Spanish chambers of commerce abroad have an important role to play in supporting, representing, and promoting a major presence of Spanish companies abroad. Regarding digital economy, over the last year, the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the digitalization process of our economies. The rise of e-commerce or the working from home system have already become an important part of our lives as consumers, So companies should be prepared to fit all these changes in their businesses. On the other hand, the democratization of information and telecommunications technologies has favored the birth of companies with an important technological base. Indonesia is an example of successful startups and technological unicorns, as of the development of electronic platforms of commerce and distribution, and for online payment methods too. To support this trend, there is an ambitious plan regarding the application of technology to industry, called Industry 4.0. In the same way, a great share of the European funds for recovery are expected to finance the digitalization of Spanish companies. Finally, 2021 has been designated by the United Nations as the International Year of the Creative Economy, and Indonesia is considered a pioneer in this industry. The creative economy subsectors are expected to be important drivers of the economy in the post-pandemic era and to contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. The last structural similarity between Spain and Indonesia is that both are part of two of the largest regional blocs in the world, what denotes its willingness to advance in economic cooperation in the processes of liberalization of trade and investment, and to work on solving bigger trade issues. The CEPA ongoing negotiations between the EU and Indonesia, or the creation of a working group on palm oil between the ASEAN and the EU, are just an example of how important these kinds of forums are in order to revitalize the country-to-country cooperation through the search of solutions to our common concerns. After a review to the current bilateral relations between Spain and Indonesia and to the common points of our economies, is the moment to collect the lessons learned from the COVID-19 shock and to explore which are the opportunities of collaboration between Indonesia and Spain that have been uncovered after the pandemic. First, there is still too much room for improvement in terms of investment. Regulatory changes that favor the opening and development of businesses would be of great help to boost foreign investment in both directions. Secondly, economic recovery based on digitalization will not happen without having ensured connectivity in our countries. The development of transport, energy, or telecommunications infrastructure is crucial to succeed. Third, economic innovation should not wait for another pandemic to bloom. We should embrace the processes achieved under the COVID-19 and keep on investing in research, development, and innovation, since it is one of the most productive investments for the economy. Finally, we believe that the best place to relaunch cooperation are these kinds of bilateral forums, also in their online form. Once the pandemic is over, we could participate in face-to-face events again, as we did in the last Presidential Investment Forum 2 years ago, in close collaboration with our partner Ibu Shinta and Kadin, that produced excellent results for both sides. According to these ideas, the National Development Plan of the Indonesian government aims to achieve 5 main objectives during the period 2020 to 2024. For this purpose, several sectors and projects have been identified as priority in the economy. In this vein, the recently approved Omnibus Law is expected to be one of the most important regulatory changes of all times, helping to simplify regulation and bureaucratic procedures. Few weeks ago, the changes regarding investment law made many of the sectors that had traditionally been closed to foreign investment became 100% open. Most of them are sectors in which Spanish companies have a strong international experience, such as renewable energies, transportation services, or sanitary infrastructure. So in our attempt to recover the economy, this is how the Indonesian side brings us new opportunities to cooperate in a win-win collaboration scheme, either through PPP agreements or through direct partnership with local companies. Finally, cooperation between Spain and Indonesia should not be reduced to the economic or business level. Institutional presence and the organization of these kinds of events are, as we have seen, also of great importance to make people aware of the opportunities, to share common experiences and search for unique solutions, and overall to revitalize cooperation. Therefore, we would like to thank you and to thank the organizers of this forum for these invitations, as well as all the speakers for their contributions, and of course, all the attendants for their interest. Here you are the contact details of the Economic and Commercial Office of Spain in Indonesia, from where we will be able to assist you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to our Economic and Commercial Counselor in Indonesia for this very actually interesting presentation by presenting us new and traditional sectors for cooperating. I think it was very interesting what you said about the creative economy, also the e-commerce, and also, of course, I mean, more traditional sectors like, which is, investment, connectivity, or actually all the plans that the Indonesian government has to develop the infrastructure. So thank you very much. And now we will move to the discussion session, where we have a very, very interesting panelists. And I would like, first of all, to introduce our first panelist, who is Ms. Shinta Kamdani. She's Vice Chairwoman of the International Chamber of Commerce of Indonesia. And she's also the owner and CEO of one of the most important business groups in Indonesia, which is the group Sintesa, which actually is working in very different fields like property, energy, industrial products, consumer, etc. She's also one of the most prominent businesswomen in Asia and is participating in many international forums like the World Economic Forum. So thank you very much for being here today. And Ms. Shinta Kamdani, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to share some business perspective in relation to Indonesia and Spain bilateral economic cooperations. We've seen that Indonesia and Spain have a number of similarities in this crisis during the pandemic, primarily in how the SMEs are the most severely affected business during this pandemic. So the existing condition of technical recession, the challenge of having uneven pace of recovery across sector, and the limited resources to bail the entire country from crisis that affect our speedy, fully recover from the crisis. Despite this contraction, I think Indonesia and Spain have a lot of room to cooperate to get out of this crisis faster in a more mutually beneficial way, especially because Indonesia and Spain economic cooperation to this day is really too narrow compared to the economic potential of the two countries. I would like, if you don't mind, to just share specific potential bilateral cooperation that I can think of as follows. So the first is on agriculture and food products. Both Indonesia and Spain agriculture sector are more resilient in pandemic compared to other business sectors. I think data from the Spain Statistic Agency and BPS from Indonesia stated that agriculture in both countries are expanding throughout the 2020. Currently, the only agriculture and food product of noteworthy trade volume between Indonesia and Spain is only CPO, which trade volume in 2020 goes up to $950 million. Although the trade of the CPO value represent about 36% of Indonesia total export to Spain, actually, there are a lot more to agriculture cooperation beyond CPO that Indonesia and Spain can do. And Indonesia is also in the middle of upgrading the productivity of our agriculture sector, particularly for export purposes. We have increased our export in agriculture by 16%, 16 in 2020. And Indonesia F&B industry are one of the most resilient manufacturing business in Indonesia during the pandemic. And they are most aggressive business in Indonesia to expand to the world market. Prior to the Omnibus Law, cooperation in agriculture is rather tricky due to the foreign equity regulation participation limits. However, under the Presidential Regulation 10/2021 on the Omnibus on investment in agribusiness, primarily on commodities, which may serve as input production to Indonesia F&B industry, which we are currently imported, it's now put under the investment priority list. We are not only open 100% for foreign investment, but also entitled to various fiscal and non-fiscal incentive upon investment. We are also looking, for example, on the joint agriculture research and development for cooperation to improve the yield productivity, the quality of lifespan of the local agriculture products to comply to international SPS rules, the land maintenance technique, so that Indonesia agriculture output will have less contaminant than that can allow to be exported to more advanced economy like the EU. Or even co-production of food products, non-food products, innovation like cosmetics, tobacco, perfume, other utilized agriculture products from Indonesia and Spain. The second is also seafood production and supply chain. I think seafood products are one of the most potential export products from Indonesia, which are largely untapped for export to Spain. If we understand the data correctly, Spain is the net importer of seafood products, ranked 4th as global importer of fish after US, China, and Japan. And I think the UN trademark data suggests that Spain imported average of $6 billion worth of fish every year, while Indonesia export around $3 billion on average. Moreover, Spain also has one of the largest fish processing industry in Europe, and has a high per capita consumption and capita expenditure on fish and seafood products. So definitely, this is an area that there's tremendous opportunity for cooperation. Another area would be, of course, on the fintech and banking services cooperation. I think the financial service industry in Indonesia has undergone a major transformation in the pandemic, as the need for digital banking and financial services are booming along with the trend of contactless payment method and online shopping throughout 2020. So transition to the digital banking and finance is largely supported already by the Indonesia Financial Services Authority, BI, and Ministry of Finance. Through the regulation, we accept and enable digital payment through QR code and others, which was initiated in 2019. So it is hoped that digitalization of banking and financial service will be able to service the large unbankable and cash-based people in Indonesia, and to cut off Indonesia bank inefficiency, which are currently has the highest ratio of operational costs compared to other operational revenue in ASEAN. So I think with the minimum of the foreign equity participation restriction on Indonesia fintech and banking services, this is definitely another opportunity that Spain can look at. The other thing is also on tourism services, sustainable tourism, and circular economy. I think BM data shows that Spain's main investment interest in Indonesia is in tourism and hospitality business. About 80% of Spain investment in Indonesia is currently in this area. Although it may take a while for the tourism and hospitality business to get back to the pre-pandemic level of performance, definitely this is an area that we could really look at more cooperation on especially Indonesia now has the special economic zone project for tourism, and are still on the run in Indonesia despite the pandemic in various parts of the region. So this is an opportunity for Spain to invest in the special economic zone in Indonesia on tourism. Also supplying for hospitality services. It's still huge, and hospitality, education, tourism, waste management, and I think some of the circular economy cooperation, utilizing or upcycling waste made by local tourism industry. The manufacturing supply chain is another area that I can look at. Machinery, as you know, are key imports by Indonesia from Spain. I think we import 2019 up to 111 million US dollar. And I think as the pandemic accelerate, the need to adopt Industry 4.0 in manufacturing process to increase efficiency and competitiveness, there is an ample cooperation opportunity for Spain to export or co-produce machineries in Indonesia, primarily for business in which Indonesia and Spain already form a supply chain, such as textile and garment. And I think also under Indonesian National Roadmap to Industry 4.0, the textile garment industry is put under priority sector. I want to also mention sovereign wealth fund. I think based on the omnibus, as you know, Indonesia now has a sovereign wealth fund, which is aimed to professionally raise and manage funds for various national development program. And, we can definitely, on the green energy cooperation that Spain seems to promote with other developing countries such as like China and Morocco, this is something that they can also look at with Indonesia. I want to just maybe finish up close by the importance of the Indonesia-EU SIPA to smooth out this cooperation. I think basically all the above cooperation opportunity can be under current condition, MFN basis. So business of both countries can start to interact and start the cooperation anytime soon. However, the cooperation will run more smoothly between the two countries once the Indonesia-EU SIPA is completed. Definitely, this will improve business efficiency and certainty also in doing business. And with also the omnibus, as mentioned before, it's the biggest structural reform that Indonesia have. This is really very timely. We can enhance much bigger economic cooperation between the two countries. Kadin is the Indonesia Chamber of Commerce and Industry is ready and standby for facilitating more businesses, B2B, and more business matching together. We have sent delegation also to Spain. I think businesses from Spain has come to Indonesia, but I think we need to extensify this more. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Sinta Kamdani, for this excellent presentation and for listing actually these opportunities for bilateral cooperation. Since time is running, we are running out of time. I would actually, ask to our last two speakers to strictly actually, accomplish the time that's established, which is just 6-7 minutes maximum. Our next speaker is Mr. Edward Ismawan Chamdani. He's co-founder and managing partner at Gayo Capital, but also he's a board member of the Indonesian Venture Capital and Startup Association. Mr. Edward Ismawan Chamdani, the floor is yours. And please just, I would appreciate if you could just summarize your speak in maybe just 5-6 minutes, okay?
Okay, all right, thank you, Amadeo. And thank you to Casa Asia and CSIS for inviting me to this discussion. So we heard already about the digital economy, the greatness of the size of the digital economy in Indonesia, and we have report also of the digital competitiveness from East Ventures, one of our member also in Amfesindo. And then there is also a tier 2, tier 3 cities focus enablement. So if you look into it, for example, in the market of e-commerce in Indonesia, I give you one example like the Tokopedia. In 2019 alone, their gross merchandise value amounted around 16 billion US, just from the B2C side alone. So if we look into the digital economy's potentials, is huge in Indonesia. But I think what I'm would like to highlight in here, there is another aspect of opportunity that we can collaborate between Indonesia and Spain. Let me flash my screen, just a moment. Imported agriculture product worth 5.9 billion US in 2018. And it's quite ironic in a way that much of the product is like, fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, beef product, tree nuts, which actually Indonesia can grow, with our abundant land. And then if we see the current states of Indonesia e-commerce, 90% of the product of the e-commerce transactions are imported items. So although we have a lot of investment in startups and unicorns, but we know 90% of the product are actually imported. So this is something that we would like to highlight for the participation from the Spain businesses. We know that most of the modern country, they have to undergo the mass production to produce the economies of scale to sell in bulk. And we know Indonesia is not perceived as manufacturing producing country, but we know our DNA is actually in agriculture, horticulture, fishery, maritime, and a lot of DNA within these sectors. And unlike in the China, that manufacturing is very popular in there, and also their DNA. But the model of C2M, or consumer to manufacture, is already there. So there is a potentials actually whereby the money, instead of investing in the downstream side, we have abundance of opportunity to invest in upstream side, in which Indonesia is lacking at this moment. In terms of the value chain, if you look into the number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, and number 10, there's plenty of opportunity that we can collaborate to improve the productivity of our upstream businesses, either in agriculture, in manufacturing, in processing, in aggregation, and others. So if you look into the number 3 on the online channel, we have plenty of investment already, but not in upstream side. So there is a pentahelix approach that we need to collaborate, from the government, from the knowledge, business, capital, and also community. So plenty of collaboration that actually we can work together. And the key, I think, is in the supply side, supply chain technology, whereby when we combine A and B, then the financing part will be easier for them to help, because there is data for them to crunch the risk management profile and the scoring on the deploying their money into it. There is certain initiative that we have within the associations already, that we collaborate with scholaexports.com, visaexports.com, to enable all the SMEs of Indonesia SMEs to be able to export our product. Pass it back to you, Amadou. But the key in here is to focus not just on the downstream side investment, but also on the upstream side, in which we are lacking in terms of investment and also focus. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, I think it's quite an interesting subject. And now I would like to pass the floor to our last speaker, who has a really long experience in working with Indonesia. He is Mr. Manuel Valdez Colon de Carvajal. He's an industrial engineer, currently vice chairman of the engineering company Global Tech, but also member of the board of the Spain ASEAN Business Association, ASEMPEA. So Manuel, please.
Well, good morning for the Spanish and good afternoon for the people in Jakarta. I am going to shorten my presentation because I think most of the figures representing the trade and the investment between both countries has been already given. So I will shorten my presentation just to introduce ASEMPEA, the association I am representing today here. I would like, first of all, to give thanks to the organizers of this forum, the Center for Strategic and Industrial and International Studies of Indonesia, and Casa Asia, And I would also like to give thanks to the representatives of both the Spanish and Indonesian government, which were here today, like His Excellency Mr. Jose Maria Matres, Ambassador of Spain into Indonesia, Mr. Nugan Rojaya, Director General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, and His Excellency Ana Salomon, also Director General of our Spanish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. As I said already, I will just reduce my speech to the presentation of ASEMPEA, which is an association of Spanish companies willing to develop their relationship with the members of the countries members of the ASEAN Association. The founders companies of ASEAN we already previously organized two bilateral associations. One which was Indonesia-Spain Association, and the other was Malaysian-Spain Association. Both of them already merged into what is today ASEMPEA. I would like to introduce to you some of the main members of ASEMPEA, some of them already present in the Indonesian market since a long time ago. We have different sectors of companies. The one is the engineering companies and EPC contractors. Under this sector, we have companies like Técnicas Reunidas, which is a worldwide engineering and EPC contractor company in the sector of petrochemistry, refinery, fertilizers, and some others. Having already built the Dumai refinery in Indonesia in the early 1970s. And also they were involved in the expansion of Krakatau steel plant a few years later. Técnicas Reunidas is today one of the largest petrol and petrochemistry engineering companies in the world, and they are normally present in Indonesia. There are other companies in this sector of engineering and contractors like Centurion, which is another engineering and EPC contractor, which also was working in the Indonesian market in the 1970s and 80s. They built several cement factories in Indonesia for Indocement, and later on they have been also involved in building many steel bridges in different roads in the country. Other companies like IDOM, my company Global Tech, we are working mainly on agronomy and agro-industry and food production. We also deal in the field of biofuels, mainly the construction of bioethanol production plants, renewable energies, photovoltaic, bioenergy, water treatment plants, etc. We have other sectors, high technology and electronics, where the leading company is Indra. Indra is one of the top 10 companies in the world in the development of new technologies in areas of transport, like logistic, defense, security, airports, air transportation, etc. Indra is also present in the Indonesian market. There are other companies in other sectors, like I'm just shortening the presentation due to the lack of time. Another company in our city is Repsol. Repsol is the largest Spanish refinery and oil product distributor in our country, which is also present in Indonesia. They are now producing around 15 million of equivalent barrels of oil in your country, in Indonesia, and is one of the main partners of Pertamina in this field. There are other companies in ASEMPEA, such as the Spanish branch of Airbus, originally named Casa, which is also present in the aerospace and aeroplane production manufacturing in your country, in Yakarta, in Indonesia. There are companies like Acerinox, which is one of the largest inox steel producer in the world, and many others. We have companies in the sector of insurances, legal services, etc. In my personal opinion, what we have as still we are under the COVID pandemic. One of the ways of profiting of the present situation, where some of our companies are slowed down, is to invest in technology, invest in the development of technical improvements on the different sectors where the companies are acting. And for the Spanish companies willing to develop themselves in Indonesia market, according to my experience, I will recommend them to consider that they will have to be present there permanently, that it will take time to them before they reach their targets. As Indonesia is a large country, and it takes time to be there and to understand how things run. And also, I think it's very important also in all the sectors where we can make a company-to-company approach to look for the adequate partner. For the Spanish companies entering into the Indonesian market, and also for the Indonesian companies coming to Spain, I think one of the crucial points is to choose the adequate partner to achieve the business target that they are looking for. Thank you very much. I have shortened my presentation, but time is running out. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Manuel Valdez. We know that you have been just working with Indonesia for many, many years, and therefore I think your experience is quite valuable. Just to mention also in the chat that we have here representatives from city halls of Madrid and Barcelona, and therefore, even though it has not been mentioned, I think that city-to-city cooperation between Indonesian cities and Spanish cities is also a very good way, actually, to foster bilateral cooperation. I think most of the questions have been answered already at the chat. So basically, what I would like to do is, to thank you to all the panelists for your contribution today. We'll take very good notes of all what you have said, and both from CSIS and Casa Asia will take good notes on the opportunities, and we will try to follow up in other seminars or other meetings with each one of the sectors that you have mentioned, together with our embassy and with our economic and commercial section of the embassy letter. So I would like just to finish to pass the floor to our forum moderator, Dr. Fitrani, please.
Thank you, Mr. Amadeo Jinsana, Director of Business and Economic Programs from Casa Asia. It's such a delight to have your moderating skills. Very, very good. And we have such a rich panel of the expert, both scholars and practitioners, that is opening or beginning the discussion of what can be done and what needs to be done in Indonesia and Spain bilateral relation, especially in the economic innovation and cooperation, to bounce back from the effect of COVID-19 pandemic. I think it has been mentioned that the investment of the two countries can be increased, and the collaboration in various sectors and as well as the financial side can be explore. The increase of company to company having a dialogues and collaborate in furthering the business together would be something that is beneficial for both countries. And perhaps the two countries can bring their own regional perspective and regional cooperation. For example, Indonesia with ASEAN and Spain with EU, to actually be the bridging of those two regional cooperation. And with that, I would like to bring the two session of this first forum of Indonesia and Spain dialogue to a close. I would like to again thank you, our partner in Casa Asia, Spain, as well as Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia and Spain, for supporting this event. We would like to invite your further dialogue and collaboration, invitation and ideas for next year, because the goal is that both CSIS and Casa Asia would like to make this dialogue between Indonesia and Spain forum as an annual event. This year, CSIS Indonesia, representing Indonesia, have the privilege and honor to host this forum. And next year, I would welcome, as representing CSIS Indonesia, would welcome Casa Asia to take the baton to continue organizing the forum of Indonesia and Spain next year. With that, again, Your Excellencies, Director General from both Indonesia and Spain, Executive Director and Director General of the two organizations, as well as distinguished speakers and esteemed participants. I thank you all for your participation. And if you would like to see the video of this recording, please do not hesitate to visit CS Indonesia YouTube channel. Thank you. Buenos dias and selamat sore. Good afternoon. I wish you health and continuous harmony and support so we can continue engagement next year. Thank you so much and hope to see you again next year.